You ever have a conversation with a person about politics or news, and not only do you not agree about the politics of the issue, that is to say, what we should do about it, but you don't actually agree about the facts of what's going on? It can make you feel like a crazy person, or at least like you're talking with a crazy person, and it'll make you wonder, do we actually even live on the same planet? What world are you watching? That's how I felt watching CNN panel segments this week about whether the left is currently engaged in mob politics or not, as recently alleged by the president.
You don't give power to an angry left-wing mob, and that's what the Democrats have become.
Whatever's going on, Brooke Baldwin says do not use the M word on her show.
When you see people like Ted Cruz getting chased out of restaurants by a mob.
You're not going to use the mob word here.
Oh, it's totally a mob.
Stop.
Put up the video.
A mob is what we saw in Charlottesville, Virginia. Let me move past the M word.
It's like the B word you're not allowed to use either.
BWBS.
Which makes me wonder, if I described this slut walk as a boob mob, would Brooke Baldwin's head spontaneously explode?
Why would you even say that?
And Don Lemon says much the same. Only Charlottesville counts as a mob, nothing else.
The real mob, not Democrats. The real mob is a mob of white supremacists who killed a woman in Charlottesville. Killed. People who are voicing their opinion about something that they don't believe in or that they think is bad for them is how the country works.
Why is death a necessary component of mob behavior? And why is it either or? Why can't I say both what happened in Charlottesville is bad and also what's happening presently with repeated and ongoing left-wing mob behavior is also bad? It's not about political tribalism or the specific definition of a word. It's about whether the harassment of others and the violation of their rights is a legitimate political tactic or not. When people use the word mob, nobody's talking about simple protest like Don Lemon describes. We're talking about hounding people in their private time at restaurants. We're talking about destroying college campuses if some speaker you don't like is making a speech. We're talking about upending people's careers over fictitious racism claims. We're talking about ruining a man's reputation and holding our government hostage on unsubstantiated nonsense to get your political way, and then screaming to shut the whole thing down if you fail. And we're talking about politicians who not only accept this behavior as legitimate, but encourage it.
You cannot be civil with a political party that wants to destroy what you stand for, what you care about.
You get out and you create a crowd and you tell them they're not welcome anymore, anywhere.
We're not talking about the guy on the street with a sign, Don and Brooke. We're talking about the guy who tries to rip up your sign and then kicks you because you disagree. And just in case they need another example, or maybe to demonstrate to myself that I am in fact not crazy and this leftist mob rule is indeed an abundantly observable problem, consider what happened last weekend in Portland, Oregon. An outrage mob prompted by imaginary reasons is bad enough. One tier below that is a mob that's on the street despite solid reasons against their outrage. In the early morning hours of Sunday, September 30th, police shot and killed Patrick Kimmins after responding to gunfire in the area the cops heard while on patrol. Police arrived at the scene where two people were already wounded in that initial shooting. Officers shot Kimmins, killing him, and investigators recovered multiple firearms from the scene, including one near Kimmins' body. Investigation of the incident is ongoing. It's not yet conclusively known if Kimmins was the shooter of those two people injured, though circumstantially that looks to be the case, and without full findings available, at least to the outside observer, one would conclude this case has all the signs of what will probably be a justified police shooting. Never let the facts get in the way of your righteous indignation, however. This past Saturday, roughly 100 demonstrators, as this report calls them, marched through the streets of downtown Portland in the area of the shooting. A Kimmins family member said, quote, "We're not here to riot, we're here for justice. We need to fight this all the way to the end. These cops need to be locked up." But these so-called demonstrations for justice were, of course, a little bit more than just that. They were more like an active takeover of city streets by self-appointed traffic cops out for mob justice against anybody standing in their way. Check out the way the mob hassled this guy who's just trying to make his way down the street, a street that is open to the public, by the way, not closed off by police, just closed off by the mob itself.
Don't hurt me.
Yeah, brother.
Just go.
Yeah, you little white little fucker. Really?
Yeah. You're a fucking little whitey, aren't you? The First Amendment, get the fuck down the road.
Please just keep going the direction.
Just please turn right,
please
for Christ's sake.
Please go the direction I asked
for
you to
Jesus
go.
Christ's sake, let's turn right.
Please, you're blocking traffic and they're getting pissed at you. We're blocking traffic. You can turn.
Oh, South Carolina, you are a little whitey supremacist. North Carolina, huh? Go back to North Carolina where you came from. You don't need your KKK in Portland, Oregon.
This is a self-described anti-racist, anti-bigotry mob harassing innocent people on the streets for being the wrong race or from the wrong place. And of course, it doesn't stop with words. Traffic started getting impatient, and the mob started voicing threats and hitting cars.
Whoa, 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 whoa! Slow down.
Slow down.
Dumbass, slow down. There's no reason to. You're lucky you didn't hit me. I would have beat your ass.
Look, you don't pay my bills. Stop the fuck up.
Hit me, motherfucker.
Meanwhile, Portland police, you know, the racist ones who are usually killing black people on sight, they for some reason took the day off from their typical minority killing sprees and simply allowed this debacle to continue unchallenged. They were present on the scene generally, but simply watching from afar. Without intervention, tensions rise, traffic needs to move, the mob isn't allowing movement, and so inevitably, you end up with scenes like this. The mob chases down this old man in the car. One mob member appears to strike the man with some sort of object. They smack his car, and then he's on his way. And of course, the mob wants justice against the driver for some reason. Portland Resistance is tweeting out, "Find him, ruin him, make racists afraid again." So I guess add simply wanting to drive through a public street unobstructed to the infinite list of things that make you racist to these people. Amid all of this nonsense, a nice old disabled lady has had enough of the commotion, so she comes outside from her apartment building and tries to speak reason to the mob, but they dismiss her as crazy and tell her to shut up.
People aren't out here just making noise. That's not what they're doing. They're out here because 3 children lost their father.
3 children lost their father because he was downtown doing things he should have been doing. Something more constructive. Yeah. She looks crazy. Look at her. She's pathetic. What are you here for? You would think, what, you drop down to 13 years old, call people names, and try to ridicule them? It doesn't work.
She's just asking them to please cut it out with the bullhorn. It's very loud, but they have no respect or sympathy for her.
All I did was ask him to stop using the bullhorn, and then he flips out.
We're here to mourn. We're not here for you. We're not here for your comfort. We're here to mourn. We're mourning 2 people who died.
Nobody mourns for
we
And the mob even complains that she is in fact the aggressor, ironically appealing to police for protection from this evil, threatening white woman.
Help! 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 She's attacking me, and this is what white women do. She was the aggressor because of a volume complaint.
And check out social justice Tinkerbell over here, giving the old lady a shrieking lesson about the facts of the case.
They shot 12 shots into his back. That's not the issue. 12 shots into his back. The issue. Not okay. Under any circumstances. But it's also not okay. Is that okay?
Under any circumstances, really? What about the circumstance of the guy having just shot 2 other people? What about the circumstance of him turning toward police armed with the gun he just used to shoot those people? I say give this chick or guy or non-binary sprite a new role with the police department. During active shootings, she gets to go in unarmed and defuse the situation herself, equipped only with her shrieking voice. I want to see just how any circumstance is properly handled. As of this recording, I've seen no charges against anyone involved, and I'm not optimistic that's going to change. Recall, this type of mob behavior hasn't just been tolerated tolerated in Portland. It's actually been encouraged. Ted Wheeler, the mayor of Portland, also serves as the police commissioner, and under his leadership, the city has completely bent over for self-righteous left-wing social justice squads, like the previous one that established an encampment of degeneracy at the city's ICE office building, so out of control it was deemed to be a biohazard. Amid that social rot in his city, the mayor still says, "Thanks guys, keep it up."
I want to thank you for bringing national attention to this important issue. I urge you to keep up this effort. It's time to move on to the second phase of this, to a more sustainable front that focuses on immigration policy over the next months and years.
To that extent, the state of mob behavior in this country is actually much worse than what Brooke Baldwin and Don Lemon are denying. It's not just that we have these mobs roaming around actively violating the rights of others in pursuit of their factually illiterate politics, it's that we have politicians in power, in many cases like this one, with the power of the police force behind them, who don't just look the other way, but actually encourage the abuse. So I don't care what word you use. I don't care if you say mob. I don't care if you say peaceful protesters operating squarely within the protection of the First Amendment. The terms and the semantics are irrelevant to me. My question for the CNN hosts of the world is, after watching this footage, do you believe what we just saw is legitimate political activism or not? Do you believe what we just saw is morally acceptable or not? Do you believe what we just saw is the country you want to live in or not? Because unless we can agree on an unqualified no, we are going to have more of this behavior, not less, and a dangerously fractured country. I'm not looking forward to seeing just how far things can go before these CNN personalities will endorse the use of the word mob to describe the scenario. I just hope I get to see it from far, far away. Thanks as always for listening and for supporting this channel. Always appreciate that thoughtful discussion down below, and especially over on Twitter. That is at ML Christiansen. You're always welcome to come hang out and chat in my live streams. Those are linked down in the description. Looking forward to it. Goodbye.